So we're going to be looking at Gallade EX, a very nice deck that I just thought had to go in, especially with Lucario's new ability. With obviously the fighting coach, it does a 20 extra damage on all fighting moves, meaning you take Gallade's normal attack from 70 to 90 without even using the ability that that's got as well. Obviously with the Gallade, this attack does 20 more damage for each energy attached. So obviously this is for the obvious opponent's active Pokemon. So if you are going against a Dialga that's managed to get 3 energies but 1 away from their big hitter, same with Palkia, same with maybe a Celebi that's got Superior on there, it's going to do some hefty damage. Now obviously the big downfall with this deck is it is going to be susceptible to Mewtwo. That's going to be the one thing that there's not really much of an escape there. It is very much you've got to get it right. There is a couple of stages of evolutions in here. Obviously Lucario being stage 1 shouldn't be too much of an issue. Then we obviously have got Gallade as a stage 2. So you do need the Rolts and Curlier. Unfortunately as well, Rolts can technically use their attack with colourless energy, but Curlier is going to be rendered useless if you don't get the Gallade in ASAP, because obviously you do need a psychic energy for it, which we're not going to run in the deck. We then have Hitmonchan as the kind of starting out. Obviously he's going to be great if he does have Lucario in. His attack goes up to 50 as well with 1 energy, and then obviously with Lucario he's going to do himself a 60 damage with only 2 energies needed. Now the big thing is there's a good split across this deck. I am definitely kind of tempted to maybe get rid of one of the Hitmonchans and maybe make like a Rocky Helmet or something across the lines, or maybe another trainer or even another Pokemon to be able to kind of level up from a singular, because I do think that is what's missing from this deck. Because if you don't get the Gallade, that's going to be a bit of a problem, because everything else is a chip damager. It's going to be little damage here, little damage there. Yes, you'd be able to take out a few things if you do consistently. And obviously Gallade's the only EX, so if you don't get that in, there's no other Pokemon that is going to get a 2-pointer. So that's kind of the big thing that you can go with there. Now I do think Lucario is going to be very much in the need for this one, mainly for his ability. Again, you could possibly go with only one of them. I do think 2 of them just adds that extra level of security to be able to actually get him in here. You can obviously swap out Hitmonchan for Hitmonlee, or you could obviously put Hitmonlee in as well and split the damage. Obviously with Hitmonlee, he's going to be able to attack the bench Pokemon more so than anything. And I think the only other one that I could really experiment when it comes to going with a fighting Pokemon would be someone like Regirock. I think he would be a fantastic one that you could go with here to be able to just do that extra damage. Because obviously when we look at a lot of the other fighting types, you think of a Primeape, you think of a Marowak, and obviously then Geodude. That's gonna cause some issues with obviously having another stage of evolution. Realistically, we're trying to keep it down as much as possible, pretty much 1 stages. The only other one that I could possibly think of that actually would be quite a nice benefit to have, that I don't know why I didn't think about him before, would be to have a Marshadow in here. Having that revenge attack, only needing the 1 energy on him to start with, and then you can obviously go ahead and then put him in straight away, could be a nice extra damage to be able to get in. And to be honest, you could possibly split him with Hitmonchan. Only have 1 Marshadow in, you'd then have the 2 Riolus and Lucarios, 1 Hitmonchan, 2 of the Curlier line or the Rolts line, and that would be probably enough. So that is another option that you can go with. You could stonewall it and go with the Lucario and also Riolu, go with Gallade and that line, and throw Druddigon in as a stone wall quite a much, to be honest, and not do any damage than themselves. But again, it does lead to a lot of the time you needing to get Druddigon out and not necessarily having the energies for it. That's where Leaf would come in, I suppose. Cyrus is always very good for his build, because just being able to bring in any damage, if you've obviously got Gallade on the attack, it can do some very hefty damage, especially if they've not moved any energies off it. If they're just retreating, for instance, a Palkia with 3, they're 1 attack away, bring him in, take it out, it's absolutely stunning. Now, obviously with this deck, I found I'd probably say half and half consistency. I thought it was a nice deck. It did enough. Got a few wins, got a few losses as well. I'm going to be very transparent with that. It's not as if I was winning every single time. And it is just another fun deck to try out. I think with the fighting deck, there's going to be a very nice place for a lot of this. And to be honest, you could even get rid of the Gallade in general. I was kind of just trying to go for all of the EXs first and cut out the middleman. Get rid of the EXs, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, Lucario with the double, or even go with Lucario, having either then a Marowak or a Primeape. I think Primeape would be quite a decent one, and having that use the ability more so than anything. So there is a lot of difference that you can go with here when it comes to utilizing the fighting type Pokemon. So I think that is going to be my big thing with this deck. If we kind of had a look at any of the other fighting, I suppose Sandslash would obviously do the 90 with it. Machamp's quite a nice one, and obviously Golem would go really well with Lucario as well. I could potentially put that one together and utilize how we did Golem last time with obviously either the double edge or going with the other ability, which was his Guard Press, which obviously does 120, then obviously taking off 30 damage for the next attack. You could go Lucario, Riolu, Golem's line, and then also have the Marshadow as well. That would work just as much, to be honest. So it's not as if this is the only combination you could go with. And then you could throw in a bit of Brock as well. Aerodactyl's always been thrown around also. So when it comes to the weakness side of it, it's a big one, I must admit, when you look at any weakness to Psychic. Now we do have Darkrai in to kind of combat the Psychic decks being heavily used. It is nice that you have got a widespread of people using decks at the moment, so it's not all Mewtwo and Pikachu anymore. You have got a lot of Darkrai's, which, again, this deck can obviously go against. It's not the greatest. Darkrai is a very, very meta platform, and if they do manage to get Curly or Ralts into the play, they are going to mincemeat it. So that's kind of it really when it comes to the weakness side of it. Other than that, anything that is very quick is kind of its kind of combat partnership, because obviously the main thing is this deck starts quick, gets the double with Lucario, and then you go and finish everything off with Gallade. That's kind of how this deck should work. You obviously want to roll in with Hitmonchan, start doing the 30s, get Lucario in as soon as possible, start doing the 50s, and then only needing the 2 energies for Gallade, but also putting the pieces together. You should be able to, in an ideal run, be able to get that pretty quickly, if you obviously get the look of it. It's why we try and keep the Pokemon down a little bit, because sometimes you can always get stuck on stage 1 and get Curlier, but Gallade's just nowhere to be seen, or you have the vice versa and you can never find Ralts, but you've got both Gallades and a Curlier already and waiting. So in terms of this deck, I was very happy with it. I thought it could do with some tweaks. So if you want to leave anything in the comment section below, that's always appreciated. To always try and tweak the deck. If we do try something different, maybe we try, like I say, get rid of the Gallade out of this deck and maybe try a Golem. It could be an interesting partnership with how much damage that truly can do. If you think of what we can with Lucario, he gets the 120, then obviously the extra 20 on top. Throw a Giovanni potential, that's 150. That's going to be enough to take out quite a lot. And having that also 30 damage less is a very, very nice one indeed. And then throwing in the Brock as well is always going to be quite nice. So I would suggest possibly Marshadow would be my main addition to this. I think 2 Hitmonchans, probably a little bit of an overkill if I'm being honest, but I thought it was a nice deck. It did a lot of damage. It got about a 50-50 run in my opinion, but let me know if you've managed to use Gallade. I was kind of hoping for a Guard EX, but Gallade will do for now, and we'll see what comes up next. Possibly Dialga, I reckon. Peace.